I work in a technical field, and one of the types of slides we tend to encounter quite a bit are those with charts. Unfortunately, most people don't seem to understand how to make a chart really effective, and what they end up doing is just using the defaults in PowerPoint, or even worse, they create their charts in Excel and copy them and paste them over onto the PowerPoint slides. The problem with that is when you create the chart in Excel and paste it into PowerPoint, the chart itself tends to get distorted. You have a lot of extra lines, and you really have a difficult time, if you can at all, editing the chart itself. An example of a chart that's created in a slide program with all the defaults left on is this one, where we've got a bar chart showing the populations of the different classes in a World of Warcraft guild. And what we have on this chart is a lot of what is called chart junk. It's all the extra ink that really does not add to the comprehension of the chart. You got those lines going across that meet the y-axis, and you've got values at the y-axis, and you've got this legend that isn't really helpful and actually covers up some of the bars. It gets even worse when you introduce 3 dimensions. Here we've got extra surface area along the top and the sides that changes the visual proportions, if you will, of the different bars in the chart. Now PowerPoint takes it one step even worse, and where if you've got a data point whose value is 0, you get lies, fibs, and mistruths. Now the blank space there is Keynote doing the right thing. If the value is 0, it will not put anything there. In PowerPoint, you've got the example where the arrow is pointing, where it puts something there. Granted, it doesn't have any height at all, but it has surface area. So there's an illusion that there is some value in that data point when there isn't any. Now, each of these charts fail in one critical area, and that is they don't tell a story, or at least they don't convey a single message in your story. Now, what's of interest in these charts? There isn't anything that really is saying, hey, look at me, I am what is interesting. Well, what I find interesting, at least in the data itself, is how many Death Knights are in these guilds. Death Knights are a new class to World of Warcraft, and it'd be interesting to see how many people actually adopted this class for a character and took them up and leveled them up all the way to the highest level. So how do we convey that message with a bar chart? Well, the first thing we do is get rid of the 3D, get rid of the extra chart junk that gets in the way, and for all of the bars, make them the same color except for the one data point that's of interest, in this case Death Knights. For that one I used the highlight color. Now, since we don't have the y-axis with the lines going across, how do we tell how many Death Knights there are, or how many hunters or mages or whatnot? Well, I put the values right on the bar themselves. This makes the chart simpler and easier to read. Your eyes don't have to go darting across the chart from left to right trying to understand how many of each class, or how big the bars are in terms of their actual values. And then what I also did was I reorganized the bars themselves. Instead of organizing them alphabetically, what I did was I organized them by value from highest to lowest. Now you could do it from lowest to highest. You basically had the same effect, but by grouping them together by value, you get a better sense of its relationship to the other classes. in terms of population. Now, if we take a look at pie charts, we find that if we stick with the defaults that the program gives us, we're left with the same kinds of problems that we encounter with bar charts. That is, in this case, we've got a pie chart with very noisy patterns for the individual slices, which makes the text, in this case the percentages, very difficult to read. The busy patterns also make it difficult to discern where the boundaries of the individual pie slices. We have a legend up top that really doesn't add any value, and the 3D effect greatly distorts the perceived values of the individual slices. Now, if we take this chart and flatten it to 2 dimensions, simplify the patterns, take the information that was up in the legend and bring them down into the individual slices, and instead of staying with the default type of border between the individual slices that, say, PowerPoint would give us, which are a black line, which is chart junk in itself, what we do is explode the pie chart a little bit so that the color that separates the individual slices is actually the slide background. In this case, we've got a chart that's much easier to read. Employing the same sort of philosophy to line charts, that is, getting rid of all the extra chart junk, we find that we can have a line chart that's much easier to read than what you would get with the defaults from PowerPoint.